Hi everyone, hope you're having a good weekend. I'm going to go over week 4, so we're already in week 4, which is kind of hard to believe. So this week, if we look over what we're doing here, and I'll pull up this overview so that might be easier for you to see here. So you're going to finish up your research log. So we have 5 research logs total, and so you'll do the 5th one on Monday. And that will mean that you will have 9 sources total for your reader's guide. And just looking ahead, you are going to start drafting and putting together the reader's guide this week. And so if you go with everything that is due each day, you will put the reader's guide together piece by piece. And so you won't have to do it, at the last minute. So just follow along with what we're doing each day, and even if you're not quite sure what the big picture of it will look like, if you're following along bit by bit, it will come together for you, I promise. So let me just go over this activity that you're doing on Monday. You should do this before Research Log 5. In fact, you can't really do Research Log 5 without it. So for this this activity, what you're doing is you're thinking about how your sources are all working together and what order and categories you might put them in. So you're going to have 9 cards or pieces of paper, whatever you want, and a piece of paper, and you want to have your research logs open. So on each card, you're going to write these things. So the title, and this is for your benefit if you want to do an abbreviated version, as long as you know which source is which. So the general gist of the source, so 1 or 2 sentences, and any other notes that you want to make about that source. And then you're going to arrange them into categories. I would suggest having 3 categories. 2 is usually too few. Some people can do 4, but more than 4 you do not want. So I would say 3 is ideal. So this is just an example of kind of what your paper will look like. So you'll have each category and name each category, and then put the sources in the order that you would have them in that category. So for this one, maybe you would want to have source 2 first. So you're thinking about basically how a reader is going to encounter your sources. These categories and the order of these sources will eventually become the order of sources in your reader's guide. So that's what we're doing now, is we're thinking ahead to pulling these together as one collection. And you want to think about, well, what would be the best way for a reader to encounter these sources, and how can I categorize them to help a reader understand my topic a little better? So one thing that I have here that's really important is that your categories cannot be simply for or against, pro, con, positive, or negative. So you probably have realized that your topic is much more complicated than those categories, and that falls back into that thesis first model way of thinking, where something is either for or against your argument, and we're not even making an argument here. So you want to think about what are some interesting ways that you might categorize your sources and put them in those categories and within in the order that you would have them. So you're going to have 2 blank cards. If you've been following along with the research logs, you will have had 7 sources so far. And so you want to put those 2 blank cards where you're noticing any gaps in your research. So you can see, in the example here, that those 2 sources would, those 2 places are where there are some gaps in the research. Okay. So you're gonna, let me show you here. So you're gonna submit a picture of your organizing sources activity there. And then you will use this organizing sources activity to do research log 5. So where you notice those two gaps in your organizing sources activity is how you want to go and fill them with research log 5. So to find the two new sources, you can use any of the research methods from the previous logs. You don't want to just go do a blanket Google search. So you can use any of the previous methods from any of the previous research logs, or you can go back into your sources. This is often a really good way to find more sources. Go back into your sources and look at any of the reference lists or notes or works cited at the end of the pieces, or within the pieces there might be some interesting hyperlinks to other sources that would be helpful for you. So those are two ways to find new sources. And then you're going to update your, this should say research log 5, I'll change that. So you're going to update your research log with that information. Okay, and then instead of doing an editor's commentary at the end of this research log, you're going to do an analysis of the rhetorical situation of your topic. So you're going to talk about, as the editor, the experience that you bring to the topic. So what's your, frame of reference? How is your own experience affecting how you view the topic? You're going to talk about the audience, purpose, and exigence, and context and genre. So, answering these questions about each of these different components of the rhetorical situation, now that you have accumulated all of the sources that you have that you need for your reader's guide. So then on Tuesday, I have some reader's guide student examples for you to look at. I think I have made these available to you before previously, but I would suggest before you do anything, before putting together the reader's, starting to put together the reader's guide, to take a look at the different reader's guides in this folder here that you'll have access to. You'll need to be logged into your UNCC account to be able to see them. And so you can just scroll through those, paying especially close attention to how there are 3 distinct sections of the editor's introduction. So the editor's introduction is the major piece of writing that you will do this semester. It's in place of the typical essay. So there are 3 distinct sections which you will have read about already if you looked over the Reader's Guide assignment. And you're also going to be looking at how they discuss connections between their sources. Okay, once you've done that, you can get started on the downdraft. So if you have done the composing processes studio, or for my 1103 students, if you have looked through this, you'll recognize that term downdraft as the draft where you just get anything down just to get started. So you can see that there is no submission for this because it's only for you. So I suggest just trying to get any 500 words down about your topic that you can in response to the editor's introduction assignment, and no matter how bad you think it is. So it doesn't matter if it's bad at all. And then what you can do is fix that up into a fixed up draft. So you want to try in this draft to get as much as you can written. So I'm suggesting that you try to get 1,000 words of your draft written. It doesn't have to be good. You just want to get it down, okay? So you're going to do some revisions. This is just the very initial rough draft. And so you want to begin this draft in your group's Google folder. So make sure you start it in there and then submit the URL, not the shareable link, to this Google Doc. Okay. And then let me go back to our page there. So we're on Wednesday now. So you can see this, we're getting a lot done for the Reader's Guide this week. So on Wednesday is spent only on peer responses to the editor's introduction. And you're going to use the comments feature again on the Google Doc. and address these 5 things for each of your group members. And then on Thursday, you're going to put together the reader's guide entire document draft. So you'll want to start again a new Google Doc, and you're going to title it your first name, reader's guide, so that your group members will easily be able to find it. And you want to include all of the components in the reader's guide assignment in this draft. So while that may sound like a lot, you have done a lot of it already in your research logs. So you'll need a title for your reader's guide. I'm not going to read through each one of these things because they're self-explanatory, but please note that you have the headings again that you'll need to pay attention to, because that will keep your draft organized. So you're going to include your editor's introduction, so you'll want to revise it since you got feedback from your group members. Okay, and then your collection of sources. So this is going to be the way that you categorize and order them in that organizing sources activity. So you've already done all this work. You already have the citation, the hyperlink, the summary from your research logs. So you'll want to just move those over into this draft. Then you're going to have a glossary of key terms. This, again, you have already done. So you want to go back into your research logs, look at the key terms, try to narrow it down. If you've got a lot of key terms, generally I would say most topics need between 5 and 8. So be very picky about what terms you're including there. And then about the editor. So this is basically a biography of you at the end of the document there. Okay. So I have for Thursday as well this reader's guide checklist. So this can really help you make sure that you've got all the different components there. Okay, so do your best to get them all in place so that next week you have a really good draft for your group members to look at and give you feedback on. Okay, and you will be turning it in next week. So these are drafts this week. And then for my 1104 students, you have a studio due on Friday on digital design. And for all my students, this can really help you think about how to make your draft more reader friendly and what kind of design elements you can incorporate into your draft. Okay, so we have a lot going on this week. Just try to stay up to date with what is going on in the day-by-day calendar, and the draft of your reader's guide will come together bit by bit. And you have already done a lot of it in your reader's guide. Okay, so please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be available all week.